Hey, my Legion, how y'all doing today? I'm here today to review a movie called Gerald's Game. Now, Gerald's Game is another Stephen King adaptation, and right now, Stephen King is a really hot property. Well, he always has been, but after the monstrous hit of the movie It that came out a few weeks ago, which is the highest grossing horror film of all time, his work is, you might see more of his stuff, even though Dark Tower didn't do that well, but I didn't see that one at the theater. But I remember, I think it was right around time I saw it, or earlier they had a trailer saying Gerald's Game is coming on Netflix. I said, man, I want to see that. Now I have a story behind the book, um, and it premiered today. And here's my review of it. But I want to tell you my story first. A long time ago, I don't know the exact year the book came out. I'm going to say 92. I was working at a lousy place called Texas Pit Barbecue in Albion, and that was a place to start out great. My dad heard great things about it where he worked at Roger Brothers. He was telling me about that, and he said, "Why don't we go to this place?" And we were there when it was like a little trailer, like a food truck type thing, right? And they give you like free samples of brisket and stuff like that, and it was fantastic. I ordered it a few times, and I was like, "Man, I'd like to work there." And not too long after, a few months, they expanded and they made their own. They actually made like a restaurant, and it didn't have indoor plumbing. They had like an outhouse out there. It's pretty. I think they had like a restroom. I think for employees and wash up and stuff like that. But they had an outhouse for the customers, and they had like you can eat outdoors and you can eat inside. And not too soon after, that place went downhill big time, and they were kept saying they're losing business, and they kept saying it's customer service, blaming us, the two owners. And no, it was not us. It was them because they kept getting cheaper portions, decreasing portion sizes, and upping prices. And this was back in '92. For a little teeny tiny thing of baked beans, they want to charge you almost 70 cents for a little tiny thing of I mean, this was back in '92. Let me remind you. Yeah, it got really bad. The refrigerator unit was. There was a whole lot of horror stories with it. Well, anyways, I worked with someone named Sufis, which I work with her brother now at the place I work at now, Mark, who's a great guy. And then he was saying that Sue was his sister. I haven't seen her since '93. I guess she moved to Montana, right? Well, anyways, she was telling me she knows I like horror stuff. I think I let her borrow a great book that Clive Barker wrote called The Thief of Always, which is like his book for kids, which is kind of like a PG-13 type thing. But Dave Lemon said it was like geared towards kids. I don't really think it was for kids, but I mean for maybe for young adults, maybe. But I mean, it's for any age. It was a fantastic book. Well, anyway, she said, "Well, since you let me do, I can let you borrow this book I rented from the library called Gerald's Game, Stephen King." I said, "Sure, that sounds great." And I started reading it, and what happened was it was almost close to. It was a week from being due, and then I was sorry I wasn't able to finish it. And she rented it out for me, and I finished reading it, and that's the story about Gerald's Game. I don't want to give it away because I'm going to review the movie. I'll tell you how it compares to the book. I mean, to a certain extent, I don't want to give anything really away. Um, the movie starts out this married couple go to this like a remote place in the woods, not like a cabin, like a I don't know, like a cottage or something like that in the middle of nowhere. Like, well, the neighbors are like half a mile away, so I mean, it's like kind of secluded. But I mean, they had like maids clean up everything and get it. So he had money. He's a lawyer. He had tons of money, and they were trying to spruce up their marriage, and they got there and there was a stray dog, and he said that dog's gonna be roadkill if he doesn't get out of the road because they were driving down. They get there, and then she tried to feed him Kobe beef. And he said that's really expensive beef. You shouldn't be doing that. Well, I was trying to feed him because I felt bad for the stray dog. And he said like, well, I'll just leave it. It's probably the best thing he'll ever eat. And they show a little bit more, and they get ready to go to the bedroom, and I think he takes a Viagra, if I'm not mistaken, or a heart pill. I think it was a heart pill or Viagra. I don't. I think both. And he brings out handcuffs, and they're going to fool around. They're going to have sex, and he handcuffs her to the bed, and she starts to freak out and says, "Let me out! Let me out! Let me out!" And he said, "Well, what if I don't let you out?" And she gets really upset, and then they yell back and forth, and then he has a heart attack and drops dead. And then she's stuck there, handcuffed to the bed. And there you have the story. One thing, a couple different things that were different from the book was that the lawyer was more portly, heavy, fat, and more kind of a jerk more in the beginning. And this one, Gerald's a little more of a jerk right at that part where he wasn't going to release her, and then a little throughout the movie. When she sees him in her bizarre reality, bizarre fantasy state. And what was I going to say now? Yeah, he was kind of a jerk from the beginning. Well, he just drops dead when they're kind of arguing and stuff. In the book, she gets mad. She kicks him, and she kind of bites him in the movie, and the guy's like, "Hey, what's wrong with you?" But in the book, she kicks him. I think she kicks him right in the chest. And then he breathes his last breath, and she said it smells like onions. I remember that from the book. And then he dies right there. A little bit different from the book. And he drops dead, and then the dog comes up. And there's blood, and then the dog starts licking up the blood and stuff like that. And it's her job to get out of these handcuffs before she dies there. I don't want to give away too much more, but then she starts going into her own head like we would if we were in like a dire situation. And she sees him, and she sees herself, and she sees other images from her life and stuff. And they kind of talk to her. The one that is like herself that she's seeing is trying to help her out, to help her to survive. And the other guy's kind of like devil's advocate and saying like, you might as well just give up. And I don't want to give away much more. It's a very disturbing, tense, and creepy film. Now it was creepy and disturbing too, but it let you off the hook a lot with lightheartedness from the kids, humor and stuff. This movie's pretty much serious throughout the whole thing. A little teeny tiny bit of humor here and there right towards the first 20, 25 minutes. A little bit. You have to really look for it. There is not a lot. There's not a lot to laugh at in this one. And there are some scenes where it gets really dark, and there was parts in the book that gets really dark, and they took those, and the movie goes those dark places too, especially during eclipse, and some other stuff that's hard to watch and very disturbing. And I'm warning you now, there's some parts that are tough to watch, and there's parts that are kind of sick. But it's a brilliant film. With this, it's like a one situation. She's trapped, handcuffed to the bed. She has to get out before she dies. That's the one situation. I don't know. I think this is one of those ideas where I didn't know if it would translate good to film at a theater, or people would go to see it, or maybe they would. But with Netflix, I think people will discover that, and they're looking for a bunch of good stuff. And Netflix is doing a lot of stuff. I think Netflix should incorporate other properties that Steam King did, like Ice of the Dragon. I don't think that no one's done that. And A Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, about the young little girl who gets lost in the forest. That was a great book, too. I read that in 4 days. My sister read that in 2 days. I let my sister borrow it. She loved it. That would be great for Netflix. Eye of the Dragon 2, which is completely different from Stephen King. But this movie is fantastic. The one thing that would really helps the movie out is acting. The characters have to be very believable. All the acting in this movie is fantastic. It's right on. It's fantastic. Just like in It. Superb film. I loved it. Yeah, but like I said, it is disturbing. It is hard to watch in places. So I'm giving you a warning right there. But it's definitely worth watching. I loved it. I give it a 10 out of 10. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I don't want to give any, like I said, I'm not giving anything away. A brilliant film. And I think that's about it for this one. It's really good. It premiered on Netflix tonight. I want to thank my friend Tony Town for making me a really cool thumbnail. and definitely check it out. I mean, it's not like unlike. I mean, in the parts are scary, and it has some creepy, some scary parts because a lot of the horror in this film is strange, is weird. It was like that in It too, but like I said, It let you off the hook a lot of times with humor and the bonding between the kids and stuff like that. Aside from the clown and stuff, because the clown was only in a certain part, and the other parts were kids being kids or kids trying to figure out stuff or dealing with other problems too. Because they had as much problem with the adults as they did with Pennywise, for the most part. But I loved Gerald's Game. I think it's very much well worth watching. I think it got 89% on Rotten Tomatoes. Said 75% people liked it. But like I said, there's some parts that are very tough to watch. But I mean, just letting you know. I mean, if you read the book, there's some very parts that were tough to read too, and you get those visceral feelings, or like those feelings of anger inside you. A great film. A full on 10 out of 10 for Gerald's Game. I hope you like this video. It just premiered on Netflix, and I'm gonna post it right now. Thank you, Tony Town, for making me a cool thumbnail. And until next time, bye, please. Take care, my Legion. I have 2 T-shirts available through Me and B Designs. So check them out too.